Good morning, boys and girls. I hope you're all doing very well on this Sunday morning. Today we're continuing the stories in the book of Judges, and today we're looking at a certain judge called Gideon. Now we're going to look at the Bible, God's Word, God speaking to us, and we're going to look at the book Judges, Judges 6, verses 12 to 16. That's the first little bit we'll read. Judges 6, verses 12 to 16. And as always, we read out of the New International Reader's Version, which can be found on the YouVersion app. And this is a very exciting story, boys and girls. So I want you all to listen very carefully. The angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon. He said, "Mighty warrior, the Lord is with you." "Pardon me, sir," Gideon replied. "You say the Lord is with us? Then why has all this happened to us? Where are all the wonderful things he has done? Our people of long ago told us about them. They said, 'Didn't the Lord bring us up out of Egypt?' But now the Lord has deserted us. He has handed us over to Midian." The Lord turned to Gideon. He said to him, "You are strong. Go and save Israel from the power of Midian. I am sending you." "Pardon me, sir," Gideon replied, "but how can I possibly save Israel? My family group is the weakest in the tribe of Manasseh, and I'm the least important member of my family." The Lord answered, "I will be with you. So you will strike down the Midianites. You will leave no one alive." Now we're going to read Judges chapter 7, verses 15 to 22. Judges 7, verses 15 to 22. So this is Gideon speaking to his fighting men. He's returning to camp. Gideon returned to the camp of Israel. He called out, "Get up! The Lord has handed the Midianites over to you." Gideon separated the 300 men into 3 fighting groups. He put a trumpet and an empty jar into the hands of each man, and he put a torch inside each jar. "Watch me," he told them. "Do what I do. I'll go to the edge of the enemy camp. Then do exactly as I do. I and everyone with me will blow our trumpets around the camp and shout the battle cry for the Lord and for Gideon." Gideon and the 100 men with him reached the edge of the enemy camp. It was about 10 o'clock at night. It was just after the guard had been changed. Gideon and his men blew their trumpets. They broke the jars that were in their hands. The 3 fighting groups blew their trumpets. They smashed their jars. They held their torches in their left hands. They held in their right hands the trumpets that were going to blow. Then they shouted the battle cry, "A sword for the Lord and for Gideon." Each man stayed in his position around the camp. But all the Midianites ran away in fear. They were crying out as they ran. When the 300 trumpets were blown, the Lord caused all the men in the enemy camp to start fighting one another. They attacked one another with their swords. The army ran away to Beth-shittah, towards Zererah. They ran all the way to the border of Abel-Meholah near Tabbath. Now this is a very interesting and quite funny in a way story as well. God chooses Gideon, a man that comes from one of the smallest tribes of the Israelites, and he's also not an important member of his family at all, not the kind of person that we would choose if we want somebody to save us. But again, just as we learned from the Israelites crossing the Jordan, just as we learned of the Israelites marching around Jericho, God gives Gideon very specific instructions on what he and his fighting men should do. Holding the jars, having the torches, blowing the trumpets. And again, it isn't really Gideon that saves his people or God's people. It is God who saves his people. And what is really amazing about the story is God's really trying to show that the victory is his, that them defeating the Midianites, Gideon and his 300 men, really is God working behind the scenes to make this happen. Because there were actually many more men that could have gone to fight, thousands and thousands, but God said to Gideon, no, only 300 men. And with only so few men, they went out with their trumpets, with their jars, cracking their jars. And what happened is actually the Midianites got so confused that they went quite crazy and they started hurting one another. How strange it is that? And in that way, actually, the Midianites were defeated. So again, the victory belongs to God. It is God helping them. So let's look at a few questions, boys and girls. First question, who instructed Gideon's fighting men on what they should do, on what to do? Second question, how many fighting men went with Gideon? And then the last question, who saved God's people, God or Gideon? And that's it for today, boys and girls. Next week, we'll hear another story out of the book of Judges. Very exciting. So I will see you next week. Bye-bye.